In this section, we will learn about interacting with APIs in PowerShell. So APIs are nowadays the most common way that are used by developers to connect front-end and backend. So let's say you have a data on a server and you want to use that data in your PowerShell script, then you can use the APIs and you can send requests to that endpoint and grab the data and analyze that data in your script. So the way we do that in PowerShell, we have the command for that is Invoke-RestMethod. So we will use this command. We will pass the URI. Here will be the URL of the endpoint, and then we can pass the method. Mostly this is going to be get method, and then we can send post method. We can pass headers. We can pass the credentials and stuff like that. So let's try this out. We are going to be trying that on dummy data, so we do not have actual data to interact with, so that's why we will be practicing on the dummy data, and that's easy for us to do. So the one I found is dummyjson.com. It has endpoints that we can test, like the products and then product ID, and if we scroll down, we have the resources, cards, users, posts, comments, codes, and so on and so forth. And another one is the famous one, that is the JSON plus folders. It has users, products, and user product says product ID and stuff like that. So let's try first this one. So it has a simple URI, and if we go to this, if we send a request to this URI, we will get the response like this. So let's try that in PowerShell. So let's do that first in the terminal, and then we will analyze that in our script. So let's say I created a variable that is data and use the invoke dash rest method, and then passing the URI flag. Here I will pass the URL that I have, and here it will only return the product one, but let's say I want all the products. I can call or send the request to the slash products endpoint. So now if I here we can pass the method, but by default the method is get, so we do not need to pass that. So now if I hit enter, this is going to send a request to the endpoint and return the data and store that data in the data variable. So now if I print the data, it has the object that is product. So now if I view the products object, it has the data that we need. So it has sub product or sub objects containing the ID, title, description, and all details about products. Let's say, but this is a dummy data. It has images as well. So now we can like loop through this data, and let's say if we need a specific product detail, then we can use that and analyze that and use that in our script. So let's say I want the product ID with 30. So I will come here, and instead of product endpoint, I will call the endpoint that is products slash and then the product ID. So let's call the ID with 30. It will return this one. So now if I hit enter and let's view the product, as you can see, now we have the product with the ID 30. It has the title, description, price, and stuff like that. So let's say I need only the ID or the price, then I can call the that by that is like the property of the data object or variable. So now if I keep pressing the tab button, we will see all the available properties. So now we got the price. If I hit enter, here we have the price. So that's how we will analyze that. So let's say you have a script where you are using some product price or some API data that is returned from API, and you have to use that in a script. You can use the it is like a REST API, then you can use the REST method command, invoke REST method, and then send the request and return the data, or send a post request and store the data and stuff like that. Now we can try this one as well. So if I come here, I will copy the URI, and let's say users is equal to invoke REST method, and then passing the URI. This is the URI, and let's pass the method that is get by default, but let's pass it. And now we have the users variable, and it has the users that are in this endpoint. So it has in email and as well as address, that is an object, so we can call it. But now we have the main object, right? So we can loop through that and analyze the result as well. So let's try that in a script. So I will copy this command. I will jump over to the script.ps1 that is in the current directory of that one that we were using. So I will hide the sidebar by Control B, and now we can loop to that. There are many loops as we have seen before, so let's use the for each, and we have this. So let's say user and the collection as users, and here we have the user object. So let's write host user.name. So $user.name. Let's see if we have, yeah, we have a name property of the user object. So now I will have to remove that one. Now if I save this, let's come to the terminal. I will have to set the execution policy to bypass. So let me do that quickly. Now let's execute the script.ps1 and see if we are getting the names. As you can see, we got the names from that endpoint. Now we can do the same for the price and description and emails and stuff like address and all those details. So that is the get request. Now we can send data to an endpoint as well. So let's try a post request. So the way we will do that is this is an object, right, and we can access the properties. So let's say I want to change the name of the user with the index is 0, and let's change it to Tauseed and change its email to tauseed@gmail.com. Now we will send a post request to the same endpoint, and the way we do that is just copy this and paste it here. But let's change the thing. So now if I change the method to post, yeah, and then we will pass the body. Of course we are sending post requests, so we will have to pass the body, and here we will pass this. But this is an PowerShell object. We need to convert that into JSON, so let's do that right here. Let's say users, or let's say JSON underscore data is equal to users, and 5 that to convert to JSON. Now we will pass that JSON underscore data to the endpoint. So JSON underscore data, and then we have to pass the content type as application JSON. So next line, and the content type is application JSON. So now let's try that. If there's any error, then it will throw an error and the request will be not sent to the endpoint. So let's save this, come here to the terminal and execute the script.ps1. As you can see, we got the results, and the ID, the user with the ID 1 is changed. We call the here in the script, we call the users with the index 0, but this is the index, not the ID. So the index 0 user as ID 1, and the ID starts with the 1 from 1 and so on up to n. So that's why I changed the ID 1 username to Tauseed, and username is the same, but the email is tauseed@gmail.com. So that's how you're gonna be sending a post request to the endpoint in PowerShell. Now we have the 4 types of methods. We have get method, we have post method. These are the mostly used methods in PowerShell or in anything, but we have other methods like delete, to delete some record from an endpoint, or to send a delete request to an endpoint. And then we have the put method, which is used to update an item in an endpoint. But using all these works the same as the post request, so you can use the post request for the delete as well as put methods. So let's try that. So I will remove this, or we can have this in the while demonstrating the put request, we can use the same thing, but as mentioned before, we can use the post method as well. Let's say let's comment this for now. Let me show you what I mean. So let's say I'm getting the user with the ID 1, and let's see if we are getting any results. So if I come here, send a request, and here we have the users object. Now let's say I want to change the name. So the way I will do that is user dot name, and I can see the name. But if I set that to something like Tauseed, and now it is changed. If I come here, it is Tauseed, but it is now stored in my system. I haven't sent this to the endpoint, but we can do that in PowerShell using the put method. So I will come here. We did the same thing here, but let's say let's change the variable name. This is let's say user, because it is a single item, and we will use the same, we will convert that to JSON, and we will send the request to the user slash with ID 1. Now we will use the put method, as you can see right here, but let's try that in the terminal. So I will come here, execute the script.ps1, and voila, here we got the username changed to Tauseed from that one. So now we can try the delete as well. So if I come here, and all we need is just send one request. So I will come here, change this, will delete the user with the ID 1. So the same request, the invoke request method URI is this. We are sending a delete request to this endpoint, and we are deleting the user with the ID 1. And here we will change the method to delete. So if I do this, now we will send a delete method, but let's try that in the terminal. We'll come here, clear the screen, and send a request. Copy this, and I will paste the request. And now if I hit enter, it did not throw any error, which means we successfully deleted the users with the ID 1. So that is how we will interact with the APIs in PowerShell. I will see you in the next section.